In order to solve quadratic equations by factoring, we need to understand what the zero product theorem is. So if I had A and B be real numbers or algebraic expressions, if I multiply A times B together and that equals to 0, then either A is 0 or B is 0. Now to solve a quadratic equations by factoring, the first thing you want to do is make sure your equation is set equal to 0. You then want to rewrite the quadratic in factored form, then use the zero product theorem to set both factors equal to 0, and then solve for x. So let's look at some examples together. Okay, so the very first step is making sure your quadratic equation is equal to 0. So I have to add 15 to both sides. So then I have my quadratic equation in standard form and it is equal to 0. And then I want to go ahead and factor. So I'm going to show you how to factor using the area model or the box method. So I put my x squared in the upper left, my middle term or my b in the corner, and then I put my c, which is 15, in the lower right. Then I can go ahead and figure out what my factors would be. So x times x would have gotten me that x squared. I needed two numbers that would have multiplied to 15, which is 5 and 3. And then when I add 5 and 3 together, that gets me the 8x in the corner. So my two factors are x plus 5 and x plus 3. So when I set those factors equal to 0, I'm going to use my zero product theorem. So I'd set both factors equal to 0 and then go ahead and solve for x. So subtracting 5, I get negative 5 as my first answer, and then subtracting 3, I get negative 3 as my second answer. Now notice you have two answers in this problem. And that makes sense because you do have a quadratic equation, so you should have two solutions. And that hint for you is that exponent of a 2. It will tell you that you have two answers or two solutions to this question. So in this question, you see that you have a 3 in front of the x squared. It's not something we've typically seen. So you actually have a GCF, or a greatest common factor. And that greatest common factor between the 3 and the 36 is a 3. So if I divide everything or each term by 3, I'm going to have x squared plus x minus 12. Now that looks a little bit like what we've done before with just a 1 in front of my x squared. So my quadratic is what I'm going to now factor using my box method or area model. I have x squared, x in the corner, and then negative 12. I'm going to find my factors and fill out the outside and the inside of my box. Doing this, I can find my factors of x plus 4 and x minus 3. Now, notice that I keep on carrying that GCF of a 3 on the outside of those factors. Now, when I go ahead and apply that zero product theorem, I'm only applying it to where I have an x. So I have the x plus 4 and then the x minus 3. Solving, I have my first answer as x is equal to negative 4, and then my second answer as x is equal to a positive 3. In this question, you see that you have a 16 in front of the x squared, and you actually don't have a c value. You have just two terms. Well, let's see if we can go ahead and at least find a greatest common factor. So I have a greatest common factor of 8x. So the 8 corresponds to the greatest common factor between 16 and 8. And then the x corresponds to the greatest common factor between the x squared and the x. So when I divide each term by that 8x, I have remaining that 2x minus 1. And notice I kept the GCF on the outside. I set both of my factors equal to 0. Now notice this greatest common factor I set equal to 0, unlike the previous example, because this GCF, or the factor in the front, has an x variable. So I set 8x equal to 0, and then 2x minus 1 equal to 0. So with my first answer, I get x is 0. And in my second answer, I actually have to do an extra step. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides and then divide by 2. And so my second answer is x is equal to 1/2. In this example, I see two things that are different. I have a 9 in front of my x squared, and I only have a c value, or a constant. So I can go ahead and put what I have in my area model, or my box method. Now notice that I did put a 0x because I don't have a b value in my question. Now with this question, I don't know what I should put for the 9x squared. I don't know if I should put 3 times 3 or 9 times 1. So I'm going to use what's called the product sum diamond. I'm going to multiply my a value times my c value and put it in the top of my diamond, which is negative 900. And then I'm going to put my b value in the bottom of my diamond. My b value I know is 0. So now to help me find numbers that are now going to go inside my box, I want to see what two numbers will multiply to negative 900, but then add to 0. Well, I have negative 30 times 30. So these numbers are going to go inside my box. So negative 30x and positive 30x. That makes sense because when I add my x's together, I would get that corner of a 0x. Now this will help me fill out the outsides of my box, and I get my two factors of 3x minus 10 and then 3x plus 10. Now using the zero product theorem, you can set both factors equal to 0 and then go ahead and solve. So I would add 10 or subtract 10 on both sides and then divide by 3. So my first answer is positive 10/3 and my second answer is negative 10/3. Okay, in this question, again, we notice that our quadratic equation has to be equal to 0, so I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. And when I look at this question and I put each value in my box, with this example, I notice that I don't have a 1 in front of my x squared. So to help me to figure out what numbers I need to use, I'm going to use that product sum diamond again. So the product, the number that goes at the top of your diamond, are going to be a times c, or 2 times negative 3. In the bottom of your diamond, you're going to put your b value. Your b value is negative 5. So now I need to find two numbers. I need two numbers that are going to multiply to a negative 6, but then add to a negative 5. I'm going to get 6 and negative 1. The 6 and the negative 1 are going to go inside of your box along with your x to match up your middle term. Then that will allow you to find your factors on the left and the right. I have a factor of x minus 3 and then 2x plus 1. Using the zero product theorem, I'm going to set both factors equal to 0 and then going ahead and solving. My first answer is going to get me a positive 3. My second answer, I have to do two steps. Subtract the 1 and then divide both sides by 2, and x is going to equal negative 1/2. So some things to remember. Remember that your equation needs to be equal to 0 before you can factor, and then you can use the area model and the product sum diamond to help you to factor that quadratic. Now if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for notifications on new videos. Thanks for watching!